Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants. Welcome back to the podcast, brothers. This is Rhit Moore, past master of Fort Worth 148.
This is Billy Hamilton, past master of Fort Worth 148.
And this is Gabe Yagish, past master and current marshal of Fort Worth 148. And we have no special guest today. It's just the three of us.
We're trying to get the snowball rolling. You know, it's a little bitty right now, but this is 2 episodes pretty close together.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
As our listeners know, we've been kind of not slacking, but maybe dormant on the podcast. And last week's episode release was pretty well received, and we wanted to use the opportunity to talk about our upcoming event, Texas MasoniCon 2023, and we're super excited for it. Right, Rhit, in broad terms, for our listeners that haven't heard of Texas MasoniCon before, what is Texas MasoniCon?
Educational event, I guess. It's so hard to just summarize it real quick. But basically what the inspiration is we started bringing speakers and different, personalities into our lodge to speak and do presentations. And we just absolutely loved it. And so we figured we'd expand it because we're in that big temple. That was another inspiration of it. We get to use that thing a few times a year, and it was like, well, let's get with it, because that's a huge expense we don't have to put forward, having the place to already host it. And so we started doing an all-day Masonic educational symposium. One of them big words. And here we are. This is year 4. COVID took our knees out hardcore, though.
Yeah.
I love that picture on our website right as soon as you log in. There's like almost 120 guys in that picture.
Yeah.
And that was year 2. So we had a full head of steam going, and we had to cancel that.
And so that's been something that we've been kind of dealing with, right? Because the team has also been trying to get used to being back in action again. Last year was pretty good. Right. I didn't get to attend last year, but, it seemed like the turnout was great and people were really happy with it. And so sometimes we forget that, hey, the first Texas MasoniCon was in 2018.
2018,
right?
Yeah.
2018. But this will be, because of the shutdown, this is only going to be our 4th MasoniCon. And really, it's only our 2nd one since coming back from the pandemic. So it seems like a lot of the stuff that we knew about how to organize events has kind of changed in a lot of ways. And that's, part of the learning process, right? So we're having fun with it, and we're trying to make it good for everybody.
You say that out loud, and things have changed, right? I guess that is a great point that, society, what gets you out of the house pre-COVID, post-COVID, there's a lot of difference, I guess.
Yeah. And so we want to make it, be one of those things that lets you, that says to you, you know what? Masonry is a good use of my time. I had fun at this event. I can't wait to kind of inspire others at my lodge, or to bring education that I learned to my lodge, that kind of thing. So this is it's also intended to spread seeds of information and intelligence and knowledge, right? Because we want attendees to feel like they're coming away with something that not only enhances their Masonic experience, but helps them enhance the Masonic experiences of others, right?
Oh, yeah. It'll get the juices going, that's for sure, because it's hard not to, seeing these guys speak and being so passionate, and they didn't get paid a dime to do it.
Yes.
to learn all this information that they're learning, you know, about just ancient mystery schools and whatnot. It's like, yeah, that's a passion, not a paid endeavor, and it bleeds off.
Well, and I think there is, so, you know, if we're comparing things from pre-COVID to post-COVID, I think right now I feel like there's a bigger interest in Masonic education. And so something like this definitely has value. Because if you remember before COVID at Grand Lodge every year, there would always be someone who was trying to pass a resolution to have like all educational content reviewed by a committee on work or committee on education or something like that. And the past couple of years, I haven't heard anything about that. And if anything, it feels like there are more lodges reaching out and proactively looking for speakers to talk at their lodges. Like the desire for education has picked up, even though attendance, right, in most lodges, we're still kind of ramping up. In some places are doing better than others, but that I think during COVID, people realized what they were losing, and so they came back with a renewed taste for Masonic education.
And
yeah, that's a good point.
You know, during COVID, we kind of saw the rise of the webinar, right? And now webinars have been a thing for a good while, even before COVID, right? For anybody that is unfamiliar with corporate jargon, webinar, web seminar, but Masonry started using webinars during COVID, and that was not very common. You saw people doing it, but not frequently. And then during COVID, it skyrocketed, but it's still missing something, right? There is, you know, I'm a very big believer in being able to work from home and stuff like that. But when it comes to fraternity and specifically Masonry and sharing brotherhood, man, there is something about that in-person aspect that you cannot replace, right?
Yeah. That's what got me about us passing that law at Grand Lodge, not being able to use it. Like their big argument that it would kill attendance at Grand Lodge. It's like, man, I love what we're doing in here, but I'm here for the fellowship before and afterwards, you know. And that's what the thing about the webinars. I thank God they were there during COVID, but boy, it made you miss the in-person, you know, after the meetings.
Exactly.
Once the webinar is over, you log off and you go back in the living room and turn on Netflix, and there's no parking lot meeting, you know, where you really get the nitty gritties.
Right. And so that's what we hope to give folks with MasoniCon, right? That this isn't just a meeting or anything like that. This is hey, I'm going to go hear some really interesting talks. I'm going to have some really interesting conversations. I'm going to go see my friends from all over the state that I only get to see a few times at a year,
or that I haven't met yet,
or that you haven't met yet. I'm going there to make new friends, right? But that's one of the things that I love about Grand Lodge, Grand Chapter, Grand Council, Grand Commandery, and Texas MasoniCon. Those are my 5 big events Masonically in the year, right? Because that's when I get to see the friends that I have from all corners of the state that I don't get to see very often, right? And so and they're all different crowds, right? The Grand Lodge crowd is a different crowd than the Grand Commandery crowd. The Grand Commandery crowd is a different crowd than MasoniCon, and different from Grand Chapter, Grand Council, right? So I love it. That's the far away fellowship is a attractive.
You know, one of the things I would add to my Masonic list of things that are absolutely fun to do is anything in Laredo when they're doing stuff.
See, and I still haven't gone. I need to go.
Man, I'm telling you, next George Washington Parade, we need to get us an Airbnb. All of us go. We had so much fun. We went to Ruben's installation, not to get too far off track. Ruben Bazan down there in Laredo, Cody Cox from our lodge. A bunch of people went, but we were the 2 Fort Worth boys. God, we had a blast.
Yeah, I saw that. It looked like a good time.
Dude, they're not called the Party Cartel for nothing. They have, the fellowship and the brotherly, because they had the Grand Lodge of Mexico there. It was international affair. People from all over the United States, Of course, Jeremy Barnes was there. I mean, it's
a big deal. Right?
Oh yeah, you barely had room to put people in, and it was a great time.
But so that's, and you mentioned, right, people from all over. That's one of the things that I loved about working as part of the MasoniCon staff, right, was welcoming attendees from all over the country and all over the world. Because I remember, I want to say it was the 2018, I think it was the first year that we did MasoniCon. We were doing check-in, and one of the requirements that we had was, and we still have this requirement, right? In order to attend Texas MasoniCon, we are not a function of the Grand Lodge of Texas, and we do not open lodge during Texas MasoniCon, right? But in order to dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure that we're not disclosing information we shouldn't be disclosing to certain parties, right? We said, hey, in order to attend Texas MasoniCon, you have to be a Master Mason in a jurisdiction recognized by the Grand Lodge of Texas. We're not opening lodge or anything like that, but just for infosec purposes, that's the requirement we have. And so a lot of people would bring dues cards and driver's license, which is a legal form of identifying, right? So, we saw, I think, Louisiana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, a couple other places, right? And then our buddy Omar, right? He was working the registration desk, and he calls me over and he says, Gabe, can you read Spanish? And I said, yes. And I wasn't sure what that was about. And we had a brother that visited from one of the Grand Lodges of Mexico, whom we have amity with, right? And they don't use dues cards. So he had a statement, basically we would understand it as a letter of good standing. And it was signed by his grand secretary. And so I had to read it and make sure that it was clear, and we were good to go. So MasoniCon is, not to, toot our own horn too much, but MasoniCon is an internationally attended event. Right? I'm going to count that. So this year we have 5 speakers lined up. We've got 4 breakout speakers and 1 keynote speaker. Our breakout speakers, and this isn't always the case, but it is generally the case, right? Our breakout speakers are going to be usually from Texas, right? And then our keynote speaker is either going to be a very, I think Jim Rumsey was one that we had one year, right? So he's, I think, the exception to the rule in terms of
right after COVID too. Yeah.
Right. And so Jim was our keynote speaker, and he is the exception to the rule because our keynote speakers are almost always from out of state, right? Yep. And so that's kind of a big deal because it means that as an attendee, you get to meet somebody, to hear somebody talk, and you get to talk to, ask them questions and stuff during the Q&A portion, and then talk to them in person, one-on-one afterwards. You might get to meet some super cool people from out of state that you might not have met otherwise, right?
Yep.
So our local crew, our breakout speakers this year are Christopher Livingston, Chris Williams, Justin Glosson, and Samuel Kivers, right? And we're super excited about this because all of them have fantastic talks to listen to, and they're all very well-spoken individuals. And I've heard several of these guys talk before, some multiple times.
Yeah.
And I'm still excited.
No, I think they all have. We either have personally experienced a great speech by them, or they come highly recommended. Because that's so crucial. We're there hanging out in these lodge chairs all day. We got to keep. Got to have somebody that keep your attention, and all these guys have exhibited that trait on multiple occasions. So I'm excited. Yeah. I know Chris Livingston. I think it's still up. His speech at the Alamo last year. That was pretty rousing. That was pretty dang good. And of course, you don't get to be grand orator by not being able to put a speech together.
Oh, is that a humble brag right there?
I think it's still, why he picked me, I have no idea, because it wasn't like I was a famous Masonic speaker before that.
Yeah.
But he pulled something out of me I had no idea that was there.
You had the material. You were raw material waiting to be crafted. But one thing that we can say about Christopher Livingston is that he is not raw material. This guy is the polished product.
Yeah,
that's it.
So Chris is a great speaker. Billy, he's a past master of TLR, right?
He is.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's got for our listeners, TLR, Texas Lodge of Research, right? So we know that Christopher is the real deal. He's involved in research at the state level, that kind of thing. And I've heard him speak on several occasions. I'm very excited to hear him talk. And our other Chris, right, is Chris Williams. And Chris Williams has been super involved in officer leadership training for the Grand Lodge of Texas Masonic Service and Education Committee for a good while.
Yeah.
I think of the three of us, you probably know Chris the best. Like, tell us a little bit about Chris.
So yeah, I put him in the field of, because looking at the OLTs, officer leadership trainings, they've been great since the inception, but along the way, there were guys, a team that took it up a notch. And Larry Fitzpatrick and Brad Kohenke and Chris Williams, and there was Justin Tolbert. Why am I thinking? Yeah, Justin Tolbert, right? From San Marcos. Anyway, Richard Slaughter was part of the team. John Tolbert.
Yeah, John. Yeah.
I knew it was JT. He's bringing sexy back to Masonry is why I said Justin Tolbert. JT. But they changed the game. They brought the OLT up another level. And that's when we were going to Corpus, when they hit their stride with the OLTs the way they were. And I say the way they were because I feel like the team that Cody Cockcroft is leading now, we're kind of taking it up another level as well, because we've added some classes. We finally got the 301 and all that kind of stuff. But Chris Williams was part of that team. And man, if you got a chance to be in his class, you can easily tell he can hold your attention. He was a fantastic facilitator for those OLTs. And now he's the voice behind, is it Big John Deacon? Yeah. Have y'all seen those in the Masonic magazine?
No, I haven't.
You guys don't read the Texas Masonic magazine, do you? What is it? The profound philosophical pontifications of Big John Deacon. So he's put it in book form too. And I'm just looking at Amazon. I see 3 of them right here, 2.
Okay, I have seen the books.
Yeah, and they put them in the magazine every once in a while. That's him. He's the voice behind all that. So he's fun, man. He is a fun character to hang out with. I have no doubt he will deliver a fantastic speech. And I like the fact that we don't know what they're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the cool things. One of the way that MasoniCon works in terms of the breakout speakers is that we vet speakers based off of their character and their recommendations, right? So if we don't personally know a speaker, we get others to vouch for them, and they come highly recommended to us, right? But one of the things that the team does is that we like to be attendees just as much as everybody else. So when possible, we get them to not tell us exactly what their talk is going to be. We only get very broad, high-level overviews. We do ask them, hey, is this going to be anything controversial? And if it is, then we talk to them about it. But most of the time, we go in blind.
That's it. We tell them it's got to relate to Masonry some way, directly or indirectly.
And you can't make everybody mad. You can.
Yeah.
You're making, you can only make 15% of people there mad. If you make more than 15% of people mad, you've made a mistake.
You've done something wrong.
So one of our other breakout speakers is Samuel Kybers, right? And I know Sam from the York Rite and from Mercury Lodge. Sam and I were part of a project to resurrect a charter, and so he and I, along with a large number of other brethren in the North Dallas area, although I don't claim North Dallas, but now I belong to a lodge in North Dallas. We resurrected Mercury Lodge, which is a lodge that takes best practices pretty seriously and has a very particular vision of Masonry. And
listen to this elitism.
Oh no. That's why I tend not to advertise it, because it's a very particular interpretation of Masonry, right?
I love it. Yeah.
But Sam is super passionate about esoteric work and esotericism, right? And he is one of those guys who I would kind of designate as a rising star of Masonry in North Texas, right?
I wouldn't argue that point. Plus, he is tons of fun to hang out with. Yeah, easy to have a conversation with. Just one of those guys you feel like you can be yourself around.
Yeah,
and that's getting more and more rare today. And so it's like, I'm like, just that at that aspect, just to talk to him about the other speakers and stuff is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to see what he's got to put on the table. And he was our backup.
One of those, he's a great person to chase rabbit holes. Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, yeah, because I just I remember he was our backup speaker last year, and we try to give them first dibs, because that's no fun, to will I speak, won't I speak, because if somebody's sick last minute. And he was gracious enough to do that. So we were like, dude, you get first dibs.
Yeah. And so we're super happy to have him on the team this year. And then our last breakout speaker, or not last, but our fourth breakout speaker is Justin Glosson, right? And he's kind of a new face to our team, right? So,
he comes highly recommended.
Yeah, he comes highly recommended. He's out of the West Texas area, right? But he was originally
Central, I think.
Okay, yeah. So he was originally out of Rambo Lodge in Dripping Springs, right? And he eventually served as commander of Lubbock Commandery, right? I think that's why I'm thinking West Texas.
Oh, gotcha. He may be originally from there. Yes, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, because that's right. It does say that on his.
But so, and so obviously he's got York Rite history and whatnot, but kind of one of the rabbit holes that he chased down was Scottish Rite. He became a member of Guthrie Scottish Rite. And Guthrie Scottish Rite Valley is kind of one of those premier Scottish Rite valleys in the world, right? This is where Chuck Dunning comes out of. This is where a number of Masonic luminaries have come out of.
Bob Davis.
Tresner. Right?
Yeah.
And yes, the late Jim Tresner, God rest his soul. Probably one of the most impactful Masonic authors that within
of our time.
Our time. Yeah, I mean,
personalities and authors. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at the Guthrie Scottish Rite Valley, that is a valley that collects or generates Masonic heavy hitters when it comes to education. And so Justin was an organist for Guthrie Scottish Rite for I don't know how many years, but several years, right? And that kind of led him to pursuing music as a deeper study, right? So serving as an organist for Guthrie Scottish Rite actually got him to pursue a master's in music theory and eventually a PhD, right? And so he's got so he's technically brother Dr. Justin Glosson, right? And his PhD in fine arts focuses on let me check my notes here. Music cognition and historical performance practice. And so his specific focus, right? So again, we don't know the specific talk, right? But we can tell you it's probably going to have to do with mythology, symbolism, music cognition, and mindfulness practice. So he has a lot of common threads with a lot of guys from Guthrie Scottish Rite. And so we're really excited to see what he brings to the table, right? So
I'm super stoked.
He's new to the crew and we're here for it.
Now, so he came recommended from Craig Hammonds, who's Austin Scottish Rite as well. And he, of course, he had a pretty good little list. I sent him a message to say, hey, did you know anybody? We're just poking around. And he sent me a long list. And it's like, make me want to go down there and see what they got in the water in Austin Scottish Rite, because they have some fantastic stuff going on down there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so, good stuff.
So we have those speakers, right? And one of the things that we're going to do that folks have been, we've received requests for this, and it seems to be a pretty big hit at other Masonic educational conferences and at conferences in general, right? So like, if you think about Comic-Con, or, Billy has told us about this before, happening at GaryCon, other conferences for special interests, is a discussion panel. So we're going to have a discussion panel this year, and the goal is to have our speakers up there at a table, right? And hopefully we can either they'll share a microphone, or we'll have each one mic'd. I don't know how we'll execute that quite yet, but it'll be an open discussion panel, right? So come with questions. If you know these guys, come with questions, or if you know something about kind of subjects that they're interested in, come with questions, right?
Or if you have a question about how to increase education in your own lodge.
Right, exactly.
Be some good guys to get some answers out of.
Our goal for the discussion panel is to have it be very broad, right? So if you want to ask, Justin something very specific about music theory and the way that it, incites emotions in us and ties to memory or something, right? Then ask him that. If you want to ask, Christopher Livingston a question about, hey, what was it like to be on the trail, being grand orator and giving the talks, places? That's fine too, right? Or so there's a lot of open-endedness here, right? That's our goal. And so we're very excited to do the discussion panel, and we hope that you are too, because this is an opportunity for dialogue in an educational context in Masonry that you're not going to see very often, right?
Yeah.
So we hope that's kind of the goal of MasoniCon, right? Is to provide those rare opportunities.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we're trying to do, because it's not every day you get to, sit down and have these kind of meetings and discussions and stuff, and it's just all jam packed into one day.
Yeah.
So is my short-term memory failing me, or did we talk about keynote speaker already?
That's what I was about to get to.
Oh, I got you. You were you building up.
I'm building up. Well,
you see, if I'm a listener, right? I'm like, oh my God, are they going to talk about the keynote speaker? When is this going to happen?
Well, I'm going to kind of go in chronologically, right? Because we have, we start the day out with registration and a coffee hour. And then we go into our first keynote speakers with breaks in between. And then we do an hour and a half lunch, so that you can lunch at a leisurely pace and have a very high quality sobremesa with other brethren, right? The over dinner table talk, and peruse vendors and buy things. And then we have a couple more breakout speakers. Then we do the discussion panel. And then at the end of the day, we have our keynote speaker. And our keynote speaker this year is
who's it going to be?
Joe Martinez, and he's out of Virginia. He's a past master of Manasseh Lodge, number 182 AF and AM, Grand Lodge of Virginia. And so I'm not as familiar with Brother Joe's work as the two of y'all are. So if the two of y'all can tell us about Brother Joe Martinez and what he does, that'd be awesome.
Rhit, do you want to? I mean, we were talking about this earlier. He's one of the co-hosts on the TMR, the Masonic Roundtable podcast. So he's definitely I'm sure most of you guys are already listening to it, but if not, that's another great resource out there. Joe is an interesting person. We've met a couple of times, actually. He's a regular out at Masonic Week in Virginia. I mean, well, that's almost in his backyard, right?
No.
But he's so a little bit about his background. He's an interesting cat just looking at his background, right? So he's a veteran of the United States Army. He's a former counterintelligence special agent. His degrees, he's got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration, but then he's got a master's degree in information security, and he's currently working on a doctoral as a doctoral candidate with a pursuing a PhD in biblical exposition. So talk about kind of a jump there, right? Of different different fields. But he's one of those inquisitive minds. He's great to talk to. He's very charismatic, got a great personality. So he's one of those people who can keep your attention and also light that light bulb, right? Of, when you're looking for something that when you want to jump down the rabbit hole, he's there. If you're looking for a whole new topic, he's there. I'm really excited that he's going to be our keynote speaker this year.
Yeah, no, he has a lot of energy that he brings to the table that just rubs off that je ne quoi. he brings his own egregore, if you will, to the table. I keep thinking of have y'all seen that movie Zoolander, to go way back? When Will Ferrell's talking about Hansel, he's like, he's so hot right now. That's what I'm thinking about with Joe, because he is one of the driving forces, personalities, if you on a large scale, pushing Freemasonry into the future. Taking it away from the, and he might love this, the green beans and spaghetti on paper plates, because he's not a huge fan of green beans, but taking it away from just being that. To back to the gentleman's club that it's meant to be. And he's a big personality enforcing that. Obviously, the guys from TMR, I mean, that was a big inspiration that tied to create this podcast. It's like, yes, they're doing it. Okay, I see the value in this now.
Yeah, he's a co-host also for EsotericCon. So I mean, from he's got his own con that he's been helping to run. He's been in the Fraternal Review several times. Actually, we were in one of those issues together, actually, where we were talking about ancient mystery schools.
Oh, cool. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, he will.
It's kind of cool that he's one of the co-hosts for EsotericCon, because during COVID, we ended up partnering with EsotericCon because they were going to do a virtual event to begin with, right? And so because we had to cancel our in-person event due to the shutdown and the restrictions that we were under, we were actually able to grant a lot of the attendees of that year's scheduled MasoniCon tickets for EsotericCon, right? So they still could attend something. They could still, get education and everything like that, right? So amidst all of the sadness and hardships of sending people refund emails and having to let people know that we had to cancel the event due to the pandemic shutdown, we still had that bright spot of being able to partner with EsotericCon and getting folks tickets. So Texas MasoniCon is still to this day very grateful to EsotericCon for that.
And if you have a shirt from EsotericCon from that year, you have on the back a Texas MasoniCon logo.
Yeah, there's that little owl and square and compasses.
Yep.
Oh, got it somewhere.
I'm still very proud of that logo. It's gotten so much mileage. Very simple, gets the job done.
Yeah,
I love it too.
Yeah.
It was, and it was one of those things to where we were all like, yes, the owl's perfect. I think we talked about it for all of 2 minutes. It was like, yeah, that'll work. That'll do it.
Yeah. So for anybody that's wondering, the reason why we chose the owl as a symbol of Texas MasoniCon is that owls are historically associated with wisdom. And so that's kind of the idea there.
Yeah, going all the way back to the Greeks with, the special animal of Athena. And probably going beyond that, to be honest.
Oh, well, the Egyptians, there's some alley stuff in Egyptian. Plus, they're stone cold killers at night.
This is Rich confession to our audience.
They're wicked cool, man. That's all there is to it. Owls are cool.
So
Rht's public debut as the Tarrant County Strangler.
So you're saying you want light around owls because otherwise they'll kill you in the darkness.
Yeah.
Well, so what we're looking forward to this event. What's something on the Saturdays of Texas MasoniCon in the past that you guys are excited about to kind of maybe rehash or see again or do? What are some of your favorite memories of previous MasoniCons?
For me, I love the minute right before people show up and the minutes right after the last people leave. There's just something, I mean, the bookend of that whole event, because it's such a high during it. It's kind of almost outer body. And you know what I mean? You're pulled as soon as people start showing up, the show must go, you know what I mean? Like you put the showmanship on. It's go time. The pads are on, if you will, whatever. And then when everybody leaves, you come back down out of that, showman's hat and come back to reality. And it's a weird, trippy feeling. Because there's a real sense of pride on both ends, but they both have their set of emotions that are just really fun to experience. You don't get it unless you're doing something that you're kind of nervous about. Well, not kind of nervous, really nervous about. Because something's going to happen. You're going to run out of food, or something's going to bust. Always. There's always some kind of.
I'm thinking about that. And this was the first year that we did MasoniCon. Every year after that, it has not been a self-serve situation for lunch, right? Somebody serves you for lunch. But we had based our I want to say that I was doing the food reservations at the time, right? And we had, if it wasn't me, I was definitely involved at one point, but we had the total number of attendees, and then we multiplied it by 1.1, right? That gives you a 10% wiggle room, right? Oh, you had more people, or people got seconds or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So we had 10% extra food that we needed, right? And so Rhit, I think it was you and I were upstairs, or Billy and I were upstairs. I can't remember one of the, but we were up there and cleaning up after one of the breakout talks, and then we were headed down. So we told everybody, all right, go downstairs to the Egyptian room and we'll take care of it. And y'all go ahead and get lunch. By the time we got down to lunch, all the food was gone.
Everything was gone. When the napkin left.
Yeah, that was.
We had to send our stewards on an emergency chicken run, and they went to Chicken Express. Yeah, they went to Chicken Express and got bags and bags and bags and bags of fried chicken, just so that we could feed the remaining people. Well, something, right? And so I have fond memories of that. But we planned a 10% buffer, and we got shanked.
Can you imagine the big husky man that Omar is, just physically imposing, running in your chicken joint, being like, "Give me all the chicken you got."
I mean, that's like, pretty much
yes, just don't hurt me.
That's pretty much what he ended up having to do.
Yeah, that was. I think Gabriel. I think that was you and I, because I remember coming down and it's like everything's gone.
Yeah, it was like walking down after a medieval battle, right? It's just a scene of devastation.
The carnage.
The carnage, people laying there, although they were suffering from the itis, not from being dead, And
you can't say itis anymore, Gabe.
I'm not supposed to say that.
Gabe, you're canceled.
You're out.
I was always canceled. But
yes, that's a valuable lesson
about it.
You don't do self-serve if you do big events, because we did our inexperience. We didn't know, but your stomach's bigger, and I'm not saying anything implying it, but your stomach's bigger than your eyes, or however that works. You get thirds on your first go around if you're serving yourself, and you don't end up eating it, although you meant to.
Yeah.
So
we're
serve that.
Very excited. Oh yes, go ahead, Billy.
Yeah, no, I would say actually, I have to say that my favorite part of all of the MasoniCon so far is the conversations that happen either before, after, or in between, right? Because everyone's there to learn, and even the guest speakers that we have come in are so open in sharing, right? The conversations that I've had with even starting, I think my first experience was picking up Piers Vaughn at the airport. In the conversation, we just talked nonstop the entire way to the hotel.
Yeah.
And it's moments like those that that's what makes it. I mean, the educational content is great, but actually having the one-on-one conversations, for me, it's actually a little bit better.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of truth to that, because that made me think about, we had Michael Pohl down the first year. Pierce Thons was here that year as well.
Yeah.
And he got in the car the morning I was taking him to the airport, and he just sat down, we hadn't said anything, looked me straight in the eyes, and he goes, you guys started a good thing here. Y'all did a good job. And it was like, holy cow. I mean, still like one of those memories that can take you back to, like, because it's jet fuel for me and motivation. And you're not going to get that with that, that one-on-one time. Yeah, that's a good point. Those are good memories too.
It's hard to get that one-on-one time.
Yeah. But in the brethren who come up, those conversations, I've had a ton of great conversations with guys who came up to learn, and I feel like I end up learning something from them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, folks. So this was our first of several mini-sodes in about Texas MasoniCon. And so, a little bit of promo material, but we want to get you all excited about Texas MasoniCon coming up. So we hope you've kind of enjoyed this sneak peek into Texas MasoniCon and a little retrospective on what it's been. So we hope to see you in August.
Yeah, what day is it? Third weekend in August, right? August
19th.
August 19th, Saturday.
Yep. And the 18th, the festive board, we still have tickets available for that.
Spoiler.
So we're going to do a little mini-sode on that one too.
Some good stuff in that. This is Rhit Moore signing off.
This is Billy Hamilton signing off.
And this is Gabe Yager signing off.